How would you describe your level of concern now? Are you in the camp that many of my sources are that say stuff needs to be going better currently? Or are you more in the camp that says the midterms are over a year away, there's plenty of time to figure this out?
So first, let me say that I have never been happier not to be actually in it, in the middle of politics, than I am right now, because it sounds really depressing what's going on at the party.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, when you lose, the party that loses gets, as you know, as I know personally, attacked and criticized, and they're the stupidest people that ever walked the planet, and
Yeah.
how could you have missed that? And that's what's happening with the Democrats right now. They're getting attacked from all sides. The other problem that they have is that there's no real leader. You know, if your party holds the White House, the leader of the party is the president. If your party doesn't hold the White House, the leader of the party is the last, president of that party. So right now for us, that's Joe Biden, but he has completely, he's off the radar completely. And as you opened with, Mark, the DNC chair really isn't the leader of the party. I mean, they're supposed to keep operations going. They're supposed to raise money. They're supposed to make sure there's stuff going on in the States, but they're not really the leader of the party. So right now we're leaderless, we're messageless, we're agendaless. We don't have any alternative ideas to the presidents and the Republicans right now. So I'm concerned, to say the least.
What if I told you one unanimous court ruling in Wisconsin just flipped the 2026 midterms on its head, and it's only the first domino to fall? While Democrats scramble to raise cash, Republicans are redrawing maps, stacking war chests, and rolling out battle-tested candidates. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see why the GOP is on track to lock down Congress and expand their Senate majority in 2026 and beyond. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make it all make sense. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss a single video as we march towards the midterms. And while, of course, it is still early for sure, we've actually got 5 power plays that are already tilting the field red, and I mean deep red. Here are 5 signs the GOP is poised to crush the 2026 midterms. First and foremost, we've got the Wisconsin shock. So this week, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, yes, the one liberals thought that they had captured a couple of months back, they declined to hear challenges seeking to redraw the state's current congressional district maps, which right now heavily favors the Republicans. Currently, Republicans hold 6 of Wisconsin's 8 seats. So by keeping the current map in place, that effectively ensures that the Wisconsin GOP will remain dominant for the 2026 midterm elections. The liberal-controlled Wisconsin Supreme Court rejected 2 separate petitions without providing an explanation for their decision. This marks the 2nd consecutive year that the court has refused to consider challenges to Wisconsin's congressional maps, having previously declined a similar case back in March of 2024. Now, this decision, of course, is gigantic, because just a few months back, this was the key issue in the Supreme Court election race that Elon got so heavily involved in. We covered it extensively on this channel, but the concern was that if the liberal won that race, that would not only give the liberals a majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, but it would greenlight the Democrats, the Wisconsin's Democrats' efforts at gerrymandering the Wisconsin map so as to guarantee a Democrat congressional majority for 2026. And with margins razor thin in the House, any little bit of tinkering with congressional maps like this could flip the House easily. Well, as of this week, that is not happening, at least when it comes to Wisconsin. Their GOP majority congressional map remains intact for 2026. However, There is a second redistricting gerrymandering sign here where Wisconsin is faltering for the Democrats. Texas and Ohio are coming out big time for the GOP. Legislatures in Texas and Ohio are poised to redraw mid-decade maps, potentially deleting up to 7 Democratic seats and boosting GOP margins in Texas to 32-6, 32 Republican seats to just their lone 6 seats, and 12 Republican seats to 3 Democrat seats in Ohio. Now, yes, courts can meddle, but even liberal analysts admit there's really nothing they can do about it. And these new maps from just these 2 states alone could hand Speaker Johnson a firewall, a 7-seat firewall that forces Democrats to win every single toss-up seat just to break even right now. Forget take over the House. They have to win every single contested seat just to break even. Republicans are poised to pick up upwards, as I pointed out, 7 seats by virtue of this redistricting, which all but guarantees the Democrats falling short of a majority in the midterms. So we've got first Wisconsin balking at gerrymandering, while second, the GOP is embracing it in Texas and Ohio. Thirdly, we got the whole issue of money. Follow the money. And if you follow the money, it is screaming red wave right now. When all is said and done, this is very simple because numbers don't lie. Democrats are broke. You can see it there. Democrats are broke and the GOP are awash in cash. The Republican National Committee reports $72 million cash on hand. That's nearly 5 times the Democrat National Committee's anemic $15 million. In fact, insiders are admitting that the DNC is so strapped for cash right now, they're eyeing a line of credit just to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, the RNC is already building field offices in swing suburbs, buying up early digital ads, exactly how you choke off a blue comeback before it could even possibly start. So we've got 2 major developments in the redistricting phase, one where Wisconsin is refraining from it, but where Ohio and Texas are embracing it, giving us potentially 6 to 7 more seats. And we've got the GOP awash in cash, all the while the Democrats are literally broke. The fourth key sign here is that Republicans are crushing it in terms of voter registration and their voter registration advantage. And this is coming from our good friend, Captain Seth Keshel, right? If you're a regular to this channel, if not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. But Seth is pointing out, you'll know that Seth's data modeling just absolutely nailed all 56 electoral college sub-contests back in 2024. Well, he just dropped his first analysis of the House and Senate races for 2026, and it's extraordinary to say the least. He says more or less, when all said and done, it's going to take basically hell freezing over for Republicans to lose the Senate. It's virtually impossible at this point. He's projecting upwards of as high as 57 Republican seats in the Senate as of 2026. At very least 51, highest around 57. Absolutely astonishing. On the House side, history says that the president's party usually loses on average around 27 seats. But Seth is arguing that targeted recruitment, registration trends, that's key, we're going to look at that in a sec, and election integrity reforms that have been passed give Republicans a real shot to gain seats instead of bleed them. So he sees Seth's modeling, which again has been uncannily accurate particularly in the last election, but also in 2022 and 2020. Seth sees voter registration trends as the key predictive indicator for how elections end up turning out. And the GOP is just absolutely crushing the Democrats in voter registration all across the country. Take a look, for example, at the latest from Pennsylvania. So these are the best numbers we have seen in months from Pennsylvania. Republicans are slowly but surely chipping away at what remains of the Democrat registration lead advantage in the Keystone State. Republicans gained a voter registration advantage of over 5,400 voters last month. They gained over 40,000 voters since December of 2024, cutting the Democrat voter registration lead to just 87,000. Now, remember, it was just a decade or so ago when the Democrat voter registration advantage was over 1 million in Pennsylvania. Trump originally won Pennsylvania in 2016 when they had about a 600,000. The Democrats had a 600,000 voter advantage over Republicans. Now they're down to just 87,000. That's the trajectory we've been talking about now for over 8 years. The nation is turning to the right, most particularly in states like Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the new Ohio, and New Jersey is the new Pennsylvania, right? Jersey is also slowly but surely turning red as we speak. Jack Ciattarelli, who's running for the governorship, he has a very good chance at taking the governor's mansion in November. He came within 3 points back in 2021, and Jersey has moved significantly right since then in the last 4 years. So we've got Wisconsin keeping their GOP-leaning congressional district map. Second, we've got Texas and Ohio redistricting to give us upwards of 7 more Republican seats for 2026. Third, we've got the GOP awash in cash while the Democrats are basically broke. Fourth, we've got the massive Republican registration advantage all across the country, but most specifically in states like Pennsylvania. And then the fifth sign that the GOP is poised to crush the midterms, Scott Brown is back. Do you remember the 2010 Tea Party darling, the shocker, right? Scott Brown winning the Massachusetts Senate seat. I mean, he's ready to do it again. He has announced he is indeed going to run for New Hampshire's open Senate seat for a Republican pickup in the Senate. Brown enters, of course, with national name recognition. He's got Trump's endorsement. And the region, we're talking about New England here, the region's highest voter registration swing towards Republicans since 2000. New Hampshire is on the precipice of switching red. They already have a trifecta. They already have a Republican governor and their 2 chambers of their state legislature. So they're just got to start. If they still have that New England liberal sentiment of sending their federal representatives, their senators, or over, they still have this blue leaning when it comes to their federal elections. But they can, I mean, if anyone is going to flip that seat, I think it's going to be Scott. So if they flip that seat, their path to 55 Senate votes really does become a highway. So putting it all together, Wisconsin remains Republican. Texas and Ohio redistricting gives us up to 6 to 7 more seats as a firewall. The GOP's overwhelming cash advantage and voter registration advantage over the Democrats. And we're getting high-profile recruits like Scott Brown to expand the map. Put that all together, and the GOP isn't just holding Congress, it's dominating it. Gang, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that a strong routine is the foundation of living well, both physically and mentally. And for me, that all starts with a good night's sleep. And that is why I've been using Beam Dream every night now for months. And I genuinely cannot imagine my nights without it. Before Dream, you know, to be honest, I'd lie awake for hours thinking about the future, the news, the world. It was exhausting. I just couldn't turn my brain off. But now I fall asleep. Seriously, I kid you not. I fall asleep in under 30 minutes, and I stay asleep all throughout the night. I wake up without that foggy, sluggish feeling as well. I mean, in fact, since I began taking Dream consistently, I've noticed a real difference in my focus, my mood, and my energy all throughout the day. Dream is made with top quality, science-backed ingredients that help you relax and get the deep, uninterrupted sleep your body needs. Seriously, I take it every night. It's become a ritual of mine I actually look forward to. And unlike other sleep aids, there's no grogginess the next day, just clear-headed, focused energy. Now, sleep is something you've been struggling with. I cannot recommend Dream enough. Right now, you can save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click the link below or scan the QR code and use code Turley at checkout. Don't settle for restless nights. Try Dream. You'll feel the difference. Click on that link below right now.
This is an incredible victory, the Supreme Court win. It allows President Trump to send illegal aliens convicted of rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them. The only thing I have to share tonight, Sean, in a little bit of breaking news, is that the district court judge in Boston has said he's going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. So expect fireworks tomorrow when we hold this judge accountable for refusing to obey the Supreme Court.
Yeah, man, straight into my veins. I voted for every syllable of that. The Supreme Court's bombshell ruling just gave President Trump's deportation plan a green light to keep our streets safer. So, of course, the radical left is panicking like never before. Their reaction is proof that they're totally disconnected from what's good for this country, from public sentiment, and frankly, from reality itself. This week, the Supreme Court handed down a ruling that says that the Trump administration can indeed deport violent criminal migrants. And here's the key: to countries willing to take them, even if those countries aren't their home nation. So we're talking about places like South Sudan or other regions, as long as they'll accept these lawbreakers. And this decision overturned a lower court's ruling, as you heard, that Boston judge, that claimed criminals needed a, quote, meaningful opportunity to fight their deportation. The Supreme Court's conservative majority put a stop to these delays and ensured that we can indeed keep dangerous people out of our country. Now, again, we need to underscore here, this is about violent criminals here, murderers, rapists, gang members who broke our laws, crossed our borders illegally, and then had the audacity to commit heinous crimes here on our soil. ICE is already hitting record highs with arrests and detentions, and this ruling gives them the power to ship these criminals out faster than ever. It's the deportation machine liberals feared, and it's firing on all cylinders. Now, of course, some on the radical left are calling it cruel to send criminals to conflict zones like South Sudan. Cruel. You know what's cruel? Letting MS-13 gang members roam our neighborhoods who shouldn't even be here in the first place. That's what drives me so crazy over this. You know what's cruel? Telling the families of victims that their loved one's killer gets to stay in America because of some legal loophole. That's the real cruelty. And the left doesn't care. They are so ideologically blind, they literally don't care. Their panic exposes how far they've drifted from what Americans actually want. I mean, look at the numbers. A Pew Research Center survey showed that 78% of Republicans, as well as a super chunk of independents, support Trump's tough stance on immigration. The public wants criminals gone, obviously. The public wants secure borders, obviously. They want law and order, again, obviously. These are all pre-political issues. But the left is so deep in their woke bubble, they think defending violent criminals is empathetic and compassionate. But true compassion is for law-abiding citizens, for the victims of crime, for the communities terrorized by gangs like MS-13. Compassion is not letting dangerous people stay in our country because it makes you feel good as a cosmopolitan cocktail party in DC attendee. Trump gets this. And as it would appear, so do 6 justices on the Supreme Court. This ruling isn't just a legal victory, it's a cultural one. It's a signal that the days of coddling legal immigrants who break our laws are over. For years, sanctuary cities like Los Angeles and Chicago put politics over people's safety. And the American people, it does appear, are finally sick of it. So what's coming next? Well, President Trump's team isn't wasting a second. They're ramping up enforcements like never before. And thanks to this new ruling, they've got the green light to move even faster. But don't think for a moment that the radical left will go down without a fight. They will flood the media with emotional manipulation like they always do, trying to turn violent offenders into sympathetic victims. They'll run to their activist judges begging for delays, and they'll keep pushing their open border madness no matter how much chaos it unleashes. To unpack where all this is headed, I'm joined by the one and only Wade Stotts, thought leader and host of The Wade Show on Canon Plus and on YouTube. Wade, good to see you, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
Well, it's an honor to have you, man. So the left is calling this ruling, in their words, I'm hearing cruel, claiming it violates human rights to deport criminals to third countries like South Sudan. How would you respond to that argument?
Well, I, for one, don't know why leftists aren't excited for the people of South Sudan. I mean, I for one, think that they should be excited about all the cultural enrichment that they're about to receive. I've been assured that we can't have food trucks without having violent criminal gangs. So I, for one, am thrilled for the South Sudanese, and I think the left should join me with that. Also, yeah.
I was going to say, I've always noticed it only tends to work in one direction, this cultural enrichment, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I've also been told that as soon as these people set foot on American soil, that they became Americans, so that now they're in South Sudan, I guess they're South Sudanese, and maybe the most South Sudanese people ever. But to your earlier point, it's way more cruel to inflict these people on the American people, like the Biden administration did. And what always gets left out of these conversations is the abdication by the home governments of the criminals. So the only reason that these people are going to South Sudan is because Venezuela won't take out their own trash. Or more accurately, they dump their trash in our living room and won't help pick it up.
Right. It's also a testimony of how horrible these people are. I mean, these are talking about the violent criminality that even the criminals in Venezuela don't want them. They're that bad. And for some reason, it's just astonishing to me that the left seems to embrace chaos in our streets. I mean, obviously, there's the theory that that's exactly what they want, because then they think that's going to usher in some kind of socialist utopian government from on top. But they seem to have this strange love affair with these just, horrible people, these criminals. I mean, you name it. I'll even say like George Floyd. He was hardly a choir boy. Let's put it that way. It just any thoughts on that? Why they're so in love with some of the most violent people imaginable?
Well, I think that it's one of the smartest things that Trump could do is starting with those people. I for one, think that the illegal immigrants as a broad problem are a problem themselves, but the violent criminals, starting with them, makes the left sort of take off the mask and say, no, these are the ones that we really love and care about, because they understand the consistency of the logic. Why do they want chaos? Why do they want these sorts of things? It's a lot easier to manage a group of sort of insane, basically all of the people who these people hate are normal Americans. And so they unleash criminals on normal Americans because they don't like America. They think that we're basically backward, have an evil history. And so, I understand why they would rejoice that these people are terrorizing normal people.
Yeah, right. It's their chance now to pillage us, I guess. That's we stole their land. Now they can take the land back, kind of thing. So we need their fierce warriors, something akin to that. From your perspective, from what you're seeing, what do you think is the biggest challenge that ICE faces now in executing these deportations? They seem to have gotten a major green light here from the Supreme Court. That was huge, 6-3 decision too. And then, they appear to be ratcheting up. They're hitting their stride here, and they're going straight for these sanctuary cities, lots of blue states, and so on. What do you think are what remains some of the biggest challenges that they'll be facing?
Well, as you said earlier, the public does support this. So the biggest challenge is not going to be public support. It's not going to be broad thumbs ups from the people. The biggest challenges, like you mentioned, are going to be these rogue judges, like the one in Massachusetts, who says that he's just going to keep going with it anyway, or at least try to challenge it in any way he can. And also rogue individuals. I mean, there have been all sorts of people threatening violence on social media, and judges doing the best to slow these people down. But I think that they should just ignore the judges. That's my advice to them, and also be prepared for these sort of vigilante actors who want to take out ICE agents. And again, these horrible threats of violence that we're seeing from leftists all over TikTok and Instagram, it's an ugly, ugly thing. But I imagine that ICE feels at some level like their job is thankless, because the people they're seeing every day are the people who they're having to arrest, and also people who are trying to protest. But if they do the job that's been set before them, I think the American people will appreciate it and will be in their debt for generations.
Absolutely. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think Victor Davis Hansen's arguing it's going to take a generation ultimately to unravel this, when you're talking about the potential of 30, possibly even 40 million illegal immigrant. We just don't know how many. I guess it was 12 million under Biden, 3 million each year. But I like your advice. Let's ignore the judges who are openly claiming they're going to ignore the Supreme Court. I like that. It's like, no problem. If you're going to ignore the Supreme Court, then we get to ignore you. No big deal. They have definitely destroyed any kind of moral leverage they think they might have. I'm curious, have you seen in your work, have you seen firsthand the impact of illegal immigration on American communities? And if so, why are rulings like this so critical to public safety?
Well, I've visited places. I live in a small town in Idaho, but there are very few places that mass immigration hasn't touched at some level. And there are all sorts of political issues that would be addressed, if not resolved, by carrying out these mass deportations. So we got the housing problem, out of control welfare spending, schools that are overwhelmed. You got drugs and human trafficking. All these things feel like separate issues. But it may seem like people who are hammering on immigration deportations as if they're monomaniacal. They only have one idea. But I, as someone who does harp on deportations, it's because I care about the American people and the broad swath of issues that all of these things address. So we saw in New York in the recent mayoral election the problems that mass immigration there has created, and I think that is something that we may feel isolated from. But if we are going to rule America, if we're going to take back America, we do have to take back the cities as well. We may feel it may feel distant, but it's not nearly as distant as it feels sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, civilization is rooted in the civitas, the city. Yeah, so we have to have, Augustine. Well, I love rural America. I've got the Amish in my backyard, but he didn't write the rule of God. I think you've got I've been a huge proponent of that as well. We have got to return to cities. I know they've been doing that a lot in Europe. It's something in Russia as well. You've got to make sure that your cities are vibrant places of civilizational renewal, or else it's just going to be limited. You're just permanently sort of in this, almost like Civil War like contrast here. So yeah, brilliant. I think you're absolutely right. And so what's going on in New York is our fight. That's really important. But that's a neat pivot. So what is the next big battle here in this immigration fight? So we've got this Supreme Court ruling. Where should conservatives focus our energy to keep pushing for secure borders, law and order, and the like?
I really like the direction that we're going. I want to say that first. I think that we're moving things in a place where we're starting in a good spot with the criminal illegals. I think we should move on to illegals who maybe the only law they broke was coming here illegally. But then maybe the conversation after that should be about the dubious state of many legal immigrants. I think that we all understand why a violent gang member who came here illegally needs to go back, but we have a harder time saying the same thing about one who is technically here legally.
Yeah.
But when people come to this country, they take an oath, and that oath obligates them to renounce all allegiances to foreign governments, to support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States, and also they'll bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
Yeah.
Any way in which if that oath is not enforceable, then at some level it's meaningless. We've given up any meaning to oaths. And people who come to our country and commit crimes or do the work of foreign governments, they aren't just breaking the law; they're actually breaking an oath as well.
Yes.
And any self-respecting nation doesn't just enforce its laws, but also the oaths that it requires of its people. So for the same reason that I expect Trump to respect his oath and honor and abide by his oath of office, I expect naturalized citizens to abide by their oath.
It's so interesting because as you're talking about that, Wade, I can't help but think of, J.D. Vance's ironically controversial statement about ordered loves. Remember when he brought up the
Yes.
whole ordered love, right? You for all I know, you probably covered it. But it seems like, again, I'm just hearing echoes of that. Is that we have, if we're going to be invited into a country, Arnold Schwarzenegger actually did this on The View. I thought that was very fascinating. I think they were trying to kind of goad him into taking on Trump, and instead he didn't take the bait. He said, no, if you're here and you're a guest, you need to honor the people who have invited you in, and you need to show your love and your appreciation for this incredible opportunity that you've been given. And it just seems it seems like it does seem to go back to the notion of virtue as ordered loves, that that to be a virtuous person means you're loving rightly, right? Love God, love neighbor, love rightly. That's the fulfillment of all the commandments. And it seems like the left is doing everything they can to intentionally disorder loves. They're trying to get you to love the criminal as over and against the victim, or try to love the illegal migrant as over and against the citizen, or to love the bureaucrat who works 2 hours a week off rather than the taxpayer. It does seem to be that the lines are being drawn here between those who are actively responding to the call to rightly order our loves versus those who want to mangle them.
It is totally a disordered level of affection, which means that it's not primarily ideological. If there's a disordered affection going on, then there's a deeper problem, and that it's not going to be solved by sort of arguing things out on cable news or even in an armchair discussion. But it's why I see, if you love America and you love your particular community, then you don't want it to go away. And so I see illegal immigration as being part of a subset of the larger problem of mass migration. And so people who love New York in the same way, going back to the mayoral race there, we have a legal immigrant who's making sort of third world communist style promises to a city that's more than a third foreign born, and he's winning. So we may, and like I said earlier, we may feel isolated from that, but it really is the same problem that flows from those cities culture-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And again, I love the way you say it. I mean, with this issue of, well, what's the old saying? If you import third world nations, you get third world problems, as it were. And especially with the way our current cultural Marxist left loves to foment this sense of hate and retribution against an unjust country. It's if it's happening in Manhattan, it's only a matter of time before it can happen in the chimney of Idaho, right? You got to be very, very, very steadfast against this. Wade, tell our audience where they can keep up with your amazing work.
I'm Wade Stotts on X, STOTTS, and The Wade Show with Wade is my YouTube channel.
Excellent. Yeah, guys, check that out. We have links down below. Definitely subscribe to Wade's X account, his YouTube channel, you name it. Canon Plus has them as well. Great stuff, great content. Wade, come on back really soon. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. Appreciate it.
Have you noticed what they're also trying to hide from you? The soaring price of gold. That's because every time Trump's name surges in the headlines, gold goes with it. It happened the day he took office, and it's still going up. Gold doesn't just like Trump, it loves him. It rallies around him. If you bought gold the day he became president, you'd be up almost $400 an ounce by now. It's really no surprise. Under Trump's first term, the price of gold soared a staggering 53%. He's even talked about the U.S. going back to a gold standard. Here's the thing. Gold has been used as a store of value for centuries. The government can't easily manipulate it, and it's known as a hedge against market risk and inflation. How high will the price of gold go under Trump's second term? Will gold continue to break record after record in 2025 and beyond? will learn more about the benefits of precious metals like gold and silver with your very own free copy of the Gold and Silver Kit sent directly to your doorstep. You even learn about an IRS loophole that allows you to diversify your savings with gold and silver completely tax and penalty free. So don't wait a second longer. Click that link below and get your hands on your very own free copy of this kit and start your gold and silver journey today. All right, it's hotline time, 717-844-5984. You can call into that number, leave a message, just 30 seconds, please. Try to keep it under 30 seconds. And if we like it, we're going to feature it on our Tuesday night and Thursday night live shows, and I'll answer your question in real time. So, Micah, let's hear our first question.
How did China rig the globalist world order for itself without the Democrat Party's help, sir? Thank you. My name is Richard. I'm from Middle Pennsylvania. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Bye.
Awesome, Richard. So the question is, how did China end up sort of co-opting globalism for itself without even the Democrats, the United States, help? It's very interesting you say that. So Olavo de Carvalho, the Brazilian philosopher, the late, unfortunately, just passed away a few years ago, Brazilian philosopher, he argued that there were three globalisms that we had to be vigilant against. There was the Western liberal globalism that Trump was trying to take down. There was the Chinese sort of Stalinist globalism that was more or less initiated by the Belt and Road Initiative. We'll talk about that in a sec. And then there was what he called the Islamic globalism that was more or less being attempted and engineered by the Shiite minority. They're only about 15% of Islam, but they had the political power in Tehran and Iran, and obviously that's been set back of late. Well, not if you're CNN, but if you're in reality, it's been set back of late. China basically became a political power starting more or less in 1979. Where their centrally planned system started to shift more towards market-oriented economies. And what they ended up doing is, and then of course they joined the WTO back in, I think it's 2001, the World Trade Organization, and that normalized then and opened up markets for China like never before. And then of course they have 1 billion people, now 1.4 billion people, and that just makes them an incredible manufacturing powerhouse. And then what they did is they created something called the Belt and Road Initiative. And the Belt and Road Initiative is basically China will go to third world nations and even European nations and say, in effect, look, we'll build roads for you, we'll build railroads for you, we'll build ports for you, seaports and the like. We'll build all of this trade infrastructure for you, more or less free of charge. Just allow all of our products to just inundate your market, and in exchange you get this massive buildup of your national infrastructure. And a lot of countries, particularly in Africa, said, sure, of course. By the way, just in fairness, Japan's doing something very similar. We do things like that as well, but nothing like China. And what that has done is that has made them the single number one, bar none, the number one trade exporting country in the world. Most countries get their number one trade partner right now is China. China is the number one exporting country in the world, and it's largely through this Belt and Road Initiative. Now, are they trying to be globalist? I don't think so anymore. They certainly don't want to be the world's default currency. They don't want the yuan to be that, because then they know they have to be a debtor nation to do that. They have to have, T-bills, basically bonds of some kind that countries can use their surplus yuans to invest in, so they don't end up losing money when it gets translated back into their indigenous currency. So they don't want to end up being a debtor nation like we've become. But they do want to be dominant on the world stage in terms of export powerhouse. That also, ironically, that does put them in a weak spot, like when it comes to negotiating with the United States, since they have everything to lose. They will lose their manufacturing base and so on, because we start tariffing their goods to such an extent nobody wants to buy them anymore. Well, then they're shot. There's nothing they can do. And of course, we've got our own indigenous we've got our own indigenous product alternatives, or we'll just get them from somewhere else, so from another exporting country that wants to play by the rules that Trump has set up. So anyway, bottom line, as late 70s, they switched to a more market-oriented, controlled capitalist structure. 2001, they get into the WTO. That opens up markets for them like never before. And then they initiate the Belt and Road Initiative, which ends up creating a global exporting superstructure that is really a wonder of the world. But it's also made them very vulnerable in that as countries push back against them, they inevitably will start to see their economy shrink. And they're also very vulnerable in terms of energy. We saw that with the threats of Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz. And China's like, yo, we get like 60% of our oil through the Strait of Hormuz. We buy 80% of your oil, Iran. What the heck? You can't do that. So we did a video on the pressures that they were facing with the Iran-Israel conflict. And so anyway, they remain very vulnerable at the same time. And I think President Trump is exploiting some of those vulnerabilities. So there you go.
Dr. Steve, I got it right this time. It's the old bull. Is the BRICS anticipated currency affected by the tariffs that Trump has put on the Chinese? It seems they're burning currency left and right, and since they're the main ones of BRICS, how can the currency even get off the ground if there's no backing? Appreciate an answer. Do a great job. Thank you again. Bye.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, no, that's a great question. They don't have a intra-national currency as of yet. I mean, they've been floating the notion. I understand they've been floating the notion of Bitcoin, tapping into a currency that doesn't belong to any particular nation, because no one of their nations in BRICS plus now, what are they at now? 11 nations or so. No one wants to be the debtor nation. They don't want to be the default currency. So it's good. And one of the theories is they could do a gold-backed currency. Another one is they can go into crypto and so forth. But as I understand it, no, the tariffs are only going to be bilateral. So it's just going to be if China is trading with the United States, they're going to have to deal with our tariffs. If they're trading with Russia, it's not going to be an issue. If they're trading with India, it's not going to be an issue. Again, besides their own tariff walls that they have. So that's the bilaterality. That's the advantage of bilaterality. The WTO, the IMF, they push multilateral trade agreements. So a one-size-fits-all trade agreement for everyone. And that's what BRICS is. BRICS is its own sort of one-size-fits-all within member nations. But the moment you go outside with the United States, yeah, it just depends what you worked out with Scott Bessent and Trump and the Trump administration in terms of what as I understand, in terms of what the tariff would be. So no, I don't think it's not ad intra. It's not inside the BRICS countries. They don't have to worry about the tariffs, but outside, yeah. And then of course, because each country is trading with the United States to a significant degree, that could affect overall economies and so forth. But I don't think that has anything to do with affecting the ad intra currency that they would come up with. But I agree with you. I think they're facing enormous challenges for that. And outside of just simply embracing something like a Bitcoin, which I would love to see them do. But outside of that, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing to do. Starting a currency from scratch, as it were, is very, very hard. It's very complicated.
Hey, Dr. Steve. My name is John. I live in South Florida. I'm an Orthodox Christian like you, and there's an Orthodox priest that's almost like the spitting image of you, very animated with his hands, and also same kind of gestures, everything. He's at St. Mary's Parish in I think it's in West Palm Beach area of Florida. But all this stuff about communism and everything in our society, the people that are behind this are the big bankers of New York and London. It's always been the way. Where did the Bolsheviks get their money to overthrow the Tsar? You got to ask that question. It's the same thing with the Nazis. Where did the Nazis get their money? You know, it's always, you got to follow the money. And that's my thought. And I just want to know what you think about the whole thing. Okay, you have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. You too. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, of course, you got to follow the money. And I think that was one of the first things Elon said, is that we're gonna go after the funding sources of these far left wing organizations. And I mean, unfortunately, you and I, as we now know, you and I were funding a lot of them via USAID funds. USAID was basically a slush fund for all of these far left causes, all these far left interest groups. And all you had to do was start some idiot, Center for Democracy, which I saw for whatever reason, Fox News has been featuring on almost every night during this Iran-Israel conflict. Center for Democracy, the People for Democratic Way, whatever it is. Whenever you see democracy in a title, run away from it, okay? Because what it is it goes back to the old Cold War, where these organizations were originally set up. So we're talking post-50s, 60s, 70s. And these were centers for democracy, and they were legit organizations that were trying to spread color revolutions and so forth all throughout Eastern Europe to try to, destroy the Iron Curtain. And after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, they turned their attention now onto populist movements, onto conservative movements, and nationalist movements, civilizationalist movements all around the world. So now the new color revolution is to interrupt MAGA, right? It's to interrupt, Giorgia Meloni in Italy, or Viktor Orban in Hungary, or Yanukovych in Ukraine. That's what got this all started back at the Maidan Revolution 2014. So unfortunately our tax dollars are paying, or were paying, for a lot of that. Thank God that's done. That's one of the reasons why I think the DNC is so bankrupt. Act Blue apparently now they're going to have to testify before Congress to find out where all their money went, because they went bankrupt. Act Blue literally raised billions with a B for the Democrats over the last several years. Billions with a B. And then we shut down USAID, and lo and behold, they go bankrupt. What's going on there? So anyway, that's going to come to the fore, hopefully. In terms of just, so that was, to me was the most maddening thing, is that we were actually paying for the very, activists that were trying to burn us down. But of course, I mean, when you look up the real funders of the left today, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, it's people like Soros. Soros puts a lot of, and again, as we found out, a lot of our tax dollars were going into his Open Society foundations. But Soros was a big funder of it. Michael Bloomberg, as I understand it, is a major donor for liberal organizations. And again, the key is he may not be donating to any of these organizations that are real far left and the hoodlums and all that sort of stuff that show up and burn Teslas, but he is funding organizations that are funding them. So usually there's going to be some distance between the radicals and the gazillionaires, but the distance is the veneer of these legit organizations. There's a guy named Wyss, WYSS. He's a Swiss billionaire. He donates heavily to left-wing causes. There's the Tides Foundation. They donate very, very heavily to left-wing causes. The Margaret Casey Foundation. So there's all kinds out there. And these are basically what these are bourgeois billionaires who live in, completely removed from the effects of their politics. But they buy into bougie politics. Again, there's a reason why wokeness doesn't exist in third world countries. You have to have a certain level of affluence before you can engage in this kind of ideological consideration. You have to have a certain level of financial flourishing, ironically, in order to have the comfort to be able to sit back and then and read, Communist Manifesto works. You have to have a certain affluence. And so what we find is that all of this left-wing madness tends to begin somewhere in the West, precisely because the West had so much affluence. So if you look at Russian thought today and you ask, where did they go wrong with communism? They'll turn around and say, well, we listened to the West. Started listening to Western philosophers like Karl Marx, a European philosopher. We should not have done that. We should have stayed true to Orthodox traditions and our unique Russian civilizationalism. Chinese dissidents will say the same thing. China was, it's not like China was fine, but China went really wrong when they started listening to these, European communist philosophers. Our universities started going really wrong when they started adopting the Frankfurt School's cultural Marxism. So, but the bottom line is it all came down to money. These are what they're called technically, it's luxury beliefs. You can buy into all of this wokeness only because you're like me, I'm in an armchair in an air-conditioned room. I can do that. But hopefully you don't lose your soul and you stay very true to your civilization so that your financial flourishing can be used for civilizational flourishing rather than some kind of bizarre left-wing revenge against the success of your culture. So there you go. Those would be some of the reasons why I think you're seeing left-wing organizations and movements getting funded. And those are some of the actors that are doing the funding. All right, guys, God bless you. I will see you bright and early for our live stream Friday, first thing tomorrow morning. If you haven't already done so, make sure you click on that link below. Not click on that link, but smack that bell and subscribe button. I'm getting it all mixed up. There you go. Yeah, like the video, subscribe. Love to have you as a regular part of this channel. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning.